Oh, I got one more. Just one more
Okay.
long. Rock and roll! Whoa! Okay, that's the last one. That's just, honestly, that's fun to yell.
I can tell. You're like, no. I got another one. I'm like, no, this is perfect. No, I have another one. It's in there.
Honestly, I think the second to last one was the best one, but that last one was fun still, so it's okay.
Oh, that's great. I love it.
Welcome to After Playlist, the music playlist discussion and reaction podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Lee.
And I'm Terry Yo.
And it's the final episode of 2024, and we've both been rocking out with our... That's right. Today is all about rock and roll.
Yeah!
I wanna rock and roll. That's it. So we're going to be referring to songs from the playlist, which is full of rock jams left and right throughout the episode. So to ensure that everyone is familiar, I'm going to introduce those songs that will be featured today real quick. Just going to run through the playlist. Starting at the top, we have Nutshell by Alice in Chains, then Black Dog by Led Zeppelin, Heart-Shaped Box, Nirvana. I believe this is pronounced Cochise.
Yo,
because I think this is just a made-up word. I don't think, as far as I remember, this doesn't mean anything.
I was going to let you pronounce it because the way I was going to pronounce it was not going to be
It's either Cochise or... No, it's Cochise. It's just Cochise.
It's just Cochise.
By Audioslave. Then we have Bulls on Parade by Rage Against the Machine. Coming Undone by Korn. Just I saw you wrote that in the script. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Then we have Through the Glass by Stone Sour, Welcome Home, Coheed and Cambria, Dance Dance by Fall Out Boy, I Write Sins, Not Tragedies by Panic at the Disco, Backcountry by Avenged Sevenfold, Icky Thump by The White Stripes, Remedy by Seether, Hero of War by Rise Against, I Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor by Arctic Monkeys, Smooth by Santana featuring Rob Thomas, She Wants to Know by Half Moon Run, 45 by Shinedown, Bad Company, which is a cover by Five Finger Death Punch, Snuff by Slipknot, and then rounding out the playlist we have Woman by Wolfmother. And if you haven't already listened to the songs that we're about to discuss and that I just outlined, we do have direct links to the music playlist in the description, aka the show notes, for your listening pleasures.
And before we dive into the episode, we have our customary after playlist disclaimers. Number one, we respect everyone's opinion, regardless of how wrong or awful it may be. Number two, we will be rocking out, but there will be no cocks out this episode. That's only available for our Super Omega Premium Supreme subscribers. And unfortunately, the waiting list is way too long to accommodate the demand on that. So
it's decades at this point. So
yeah. So sorry, guys.
See you in 2065.
Right. And we'll still be podcasting.
Yeah.
And number three, we're just talking about the music, not the artist's real life, personal, or cancelable issues. And lastly, if you're enjoying the podcast, feel free to give us a like and subscribe. We're on all platforms, so wherever you listen, give us a like and a review. All those little things help. It's the easiest and the freest way to support the show. And without further ado, let's rock out.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to start out by saying, because I guess I should first and foremost explain, I curated this playlist entirely. This was born out of I believe it was the Male Powerhouse Singer episode.
Yes.
Where I hot swapped Nutshell out for Rooster. And I think that kind of, just the song Nutshell, when I had it on that playlist originally, kind of, I think maybe opened your eyes to like some other style and sounds of rock that you had not really heard before. And so we had kind of talked about how after that, you really wanted me at some point to make a rock playlist. Took me some time, Obviously, this is now several episodes after that episode came out. Finally got around to doing it. And my criteria for picking the songs, because at first, whenever I first started making the playlist, I was just going through rock music, just like big mega playlists of rock music on YouTube and Spotify, and just any song that like I liked and that jumped out at me, I was adding it. That quickly got way too overwhelming. I had like, this is how many tracks on here?
I think we ended up at 21. Like 21.
21 tracks. I could have had 2 more of these playlists with the exact same amount with how many songs I had like originally, and then I had to start cutting down.
Oh wow.
So I had to start thinking like, well, how do I decide? Because like I've listened to and loved so much rock music just over the span of my life. How do I decide what to cut and what to keep? So I kind of started to think of, specifically because of how this playlist and this episode came about, I wanted to try and focus on music that I thought you had not heard before. And I think I largely succeeded in that. If I remember right, there was only 3 or 4 songs on this playlist that before I submitted it to you, you were already familiar with.
Yeah, there was about 3 that I was familiar with as far as the song itself. Yeah. Some of the artists I was familiar with, but not the song.
So that was number 1. Number 2, I also kind of sort of wanted to get. I wanted them all to be songs that I liked and loved, but I also wanted it to be. I tried to. I don't think I succeeded in this as much, but I tried to have a little bit of a variety of different like types of rock music and genres of rock music. Okay. I think I definitely succeeded in that a little bit. It's not all just uniform one sound. It definitely bounces around, but I think I could have got a little bit more variation in there.
Okay. Who knows? Okay. I don't disagree with that, but yeah, I liked it nonetheless. So
same. Again, all of these songs are songs that I have been listening to and I've loved for a long time. I also just want to briefly talk about how this playlist, because for the longest time, whenever people would talk about different genres of rock music, and this might somewhat play into what I was just saying about not getting as many genres, I have a hard time, I feel like, differentiating the different, like what's new metal and post metal and grunge metal and funk metal and what's regular rock and indie rock and all these genres. And there's so much overlap, I feel like, between the different genres within rock itself, that it definitely gets, for me, confusing. And just both making and listening to this playlist, I've realized a big part, I think, of why I've kind of struggled with that is, by and large, the majority of rock I've listened to have been some kind of quote unquote metal. So to me, metal was just like regular rock. So like what was regular rock, it was always just like, in my own head, deserved this other genre that was never quite put in, because it was just a standard rock, I guess, to the masses. So yeah, that's something I just kind of learned about myself, is that I lean more metal, like heavy rock. And that definitely is shown on the playlist, I feel like, by and large.
Yeah, it's shown, but like, so for me, venturing into rock, I had the same preconceived notion. I just thought rock was just rock, and then there's different styles. Then I eventually grew to learn that there's the metal, then there's hard rock, and then there's the soft rock stuff, and then there's like the screaming stuff. So I kind of just broke them up into those simple categories, like overarching. Yes. And then from that point, I've been trying to narrow it down and learn the difference between the grunge and what's the one we discovered last time? It was like post something. We were talking about Kansas or something at that point. God, I can't remember.
It was Dream Theater.
Progressive, yeah.
Progressive metal.
Progressive rock, prog rock, which I learned that prog says for progressive. So I was like, oh.
Well, see, that's, again, you're highlighting my point. There's prog rock, and I think there's also prog metal.
Oh, wow.
So you see the lines, it's so not like straight. There's no like standardized, like cut and dry. And it also, another thing that like kind of muddies the waters even more is a lot of artists and bands, rather, they don't stick to just one sound. They might have one song that's more progressive or more funk metal, and then they might have like a slower soft rock ballady type song, like literally the very next song on an album, and it can bounce back and forth, but then they'll still be labeled like a new metal or a such and such metal band, just because that's the majority of, but maybe you only know the one soft rock sound by that band. So to them, or to you, they're not a super heavy metal band, right? Because they're one soft more melodic song. So, and I also think for me growing up was whenever like the screamo, like you mentioned, screamo sound, that was what was, if you had like screamo and just like thrash, like thrashing instrumentation, that was in my head, that was metal.
Okay, same.
But that's its like own subgenre of like thrash, screamo, heavy metal. Like it's got its own like separate genre that's just very hard to parse, I feel like, especially if you're not someone who is like familiar with rock music.
Yeah, it was definitely challenging getting into it, as a noob back in high school, crossing over the Great Divide. And then also learning that alternative was a thing too. Because I thought alternative was just rock. But then like, no, there's alternative music. And then the lines kind of got blurred. So I just learned to listen to the songs that I can actually hear and understand some of the lyrics. And that's the thing about your playlist that I've noticed. There are moments of screaming, but you can really like hear the lyrics. It's not a whole bunch of it's not all of that. Which again, there's a time and place for all of that. Like there's a time and place for those kind of songs. But ultimately I noticed on your playlist that you created, the songs you chose for this one in particular, you shied away from that sound, which was interesting for me.
Yeah, so I've definitely in recent times, in large part due to your influence, I've definitely grown to love the screamo style of rock a lot more than I did in the past. Growing up, I was not really a huge fan. Like I definitely liked groups that did the screamo, but a lot of my favorite songs were songs that the screaming parts would be like less compared to others, right? Like it might just have a few moments, or it might have a screamo part, but then like the rest of the song is more melodic and instrumental. So yeah, that definitely colored how whenever I was going into this, because again, a lot of these, well, I guess I kind of skipped a way I structured whenever I like had all these songs picked was I kind of structured it. It's loosely, because this is not, don't like go through the list and when these songs came out and like quote me and be mad, but they're loosely chronologically like release.
Okay.
Like, in the playlist, it's chronologically to how they released. A few of them are out of order, and that was because in the cases where they are out of order, it's because I based it on like when I found the song. So like if I found a song that came out earlier, and vice versa, then that's how they show up on the playlist. But if I wasn't sure, then I just did it chronologically of like when the song actually released. But yeah, so again, just tying back into Screamo, I feel like it was really maybe mid to late 2000s going into the 2010s that like Screamo style of like heavy metal rock really started like blowing up and becoming super popular, at least as far as I remember. I mean, they definitely had screaming in rock music, but the whole like, whenever you say screaming in rock music now, it conjures a very specific style of screaming and sound versus just like screaming a lyric that you're singing, right? I feel like it's different.
Yeah. Yes. So, like a perfect example for me, which was eye-opening as well, the song by 30 Seconds to Mars that was popular way back when, The Kill. So I grew to love that song, specifically the part of the bridge where he doesn't scream the whole song, but at that part of the bridge where he goes like real scream metal. And I was like, oh, I like this part of the song that really like kind of tickled my ear. I was like, oh, this isn't so bad. I can hear everything else. So as long as it's like, in little moments in the song, I like those little punctuations. But what really tricked me out was I was listening to the radio back when, and there's like here in Atlanta at the time, there was the rock station back when we had those. And then there was the other station that played pop but rock, but I guess it was a little bit softer side of that kind of sound. So they would play the same song on that network, on that radio station. And when that part of the song came on, they actually took it out of the song.
Oh, really?
and they switched it up to a more melodic sound. So they took the screaming portion out of that song. And I was like, I'm screaming by myself and I'm hearing it. And I'm like, where the scream go? So I was just like, wow. So even like, cause like back then on the urban radio stations, you'll have like the version with the rap. And then on the R&B station, you'll have the version where they took the rap out and they just have just strictly the R&B version of the song. And I was just like, I didn't realize that on the other side of the pond, y'all did the same thing with the rock music too. So that's when my mind was opened up to that side. I was like, oh, wow. The same rules apply, but at the time I was so segregated as far as with my sound of what's what and this is this and this is that. I didn't realize that even in the rock genre, things can flip up and change up as well. So, and then the cross pollination between the genres and bandmates and all those different things. I didn't think, for whatever reason, I guess me being naive to it all, I didn't realize how prevalent that was. So it's very interesting to me. Yeah, just learning over time that, like, one singer would be in 5 different bands, and this drummer slid over to this band, or this guitarist went on the tour with this band to help them out for whatever reason. There's
crazy. Definitely a lot of that. There's a lot of it, like, you go and look up any band just about on this playlist, right? And you just look at their members, especially if it's a band that was like touring and making music for like, a long time, like decades. Just oftentimes it's like one, maybe 2 members that have like been in the band the whole time, and literally every other position in the band has just been like rotating through 3, 4, 5 people over the years.
Right. I mean, it's literally like the whole Ship of Theseus thing when it comes to bands.
Right.
It's like, yes. Okay, if all the members left and replaced, is it still the same band? Like, it's not the same. Like, another example that another friend of mine put on, like, I knew about Three Doors Grace back in the day, one of their songs, whatever, and then I heard a new song by them.
Wait. There's.
You know what? I merged.
Well, now you got me confused, because there's 3 Doors Down, and then is it 3 Days Grace? Is it 3? Are they both 3? Is that why? Okay.
They're both 3. Oh, God. I just merged them into the group.
3 Doors Grace.
So there's
or 3 Grace
doors
Down.
3 Doors Grace. Oh, my God. I just merged them. Oh, my God. My brain, I swear. Oh, okay. So it was 3 Days Grace I'm referring to, I believe.
Okay.
And they had they had a specific sound that I liked. So when I was getting into the rock sound, it was some of the screaming stuff. I was like, okay, that might be a little too much for me. I can't really rock with that, pun intended. And then there was the songs where it kind of had the grungier, like more gravelly voice, like the Seethers and the Chevelles and all of them. I was like, okay, I like this sound. This tone registers with my ear very well. I can hear this and I can sing along with it. I feel good with that. And that's the sound that 3 Days Grace had. Mm-hmm. And then I guess their lead singer left the group, formed a whole nother group, and they replaced it with another guy that's the complete opposite of that. Yeah. So, and his voice is like super nasally and high. And then even when he tries to re-sing the older songs, I'm just
it's
like,
not the same.
It is not the same. So it just, again, opened my eye to that whole world of just like, wow, this is more complicated than what it seems,
Well, also, I mean, it makes sense whenever you say it out loud, but over time, both like what sound artists strove to make, and also just what sound was popular, so what you heard more of changed. So like, yes, you're talking about, if I'm not mistaken, that's like 2005 to like maybe like early 2010s.
Yeah, somewhere around that era. Yeah,
like early mid 2000s into like the early 2010s, and then once you get into like I said earlier, once you get into the 2010s into like 2015, you kind of start getting away from like, because I feel like that era 2005 into the early 2010s was like kind of the heyday for quote unquote hard rock. Like a lot of what was popular on the radio was more hard. I wouldn't quite say it's to the level of metal, but again, I could be wrong, because these genres are all made up and don't make any sense.
Yeah, facts.
Once you start getting into the 2010s, I feel like that's when like the indie rock scene really blew up. And it's funny, it just kind of wrinkled my brain a little bit that indie rock ended up kind of having a specific sound associated with it, when all that it means is literally independent rock bands.
Yeah.
The bands that have not signed any label. Like originally that's all it meant, is if you're an indie band, you're a band that's just making it on your own. You're not signed to a label. You're producing all your own stuff, blah, 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 blah. But over time, it definitely has like become its own genre of sound.
Yeah.
With just a lot of indie rock bands kind of sounding like the same. And it's definitely a much more, oftentimes, if you're listening to an artist that has ascribed itself to that sound, it's a much more lighter, almost poppy sound sometimes, I feel like.
Yes. It's definitely more poppy, but also unpolished, if that makes sense too.
Yes. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge fan of indie rock, and there's definitely some indie rock songs near the end of this playlist. And it is just interesting to me how that's kind of been the most like popular, I feel like, genre outside of like just, hits from eras past that still get played everywhere or whatnot.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I believe that's also because of the the mainstreamification of those different indie sounds. Like those are, I think, commercials and basic commercials tend to focus on the indie rock kind of sound or indie pop sound.
Yeah.
For like background scores or in movies or rom-coms or whatever. So those are the ones that
they're a little bit more, I feel like they're varied in their expression. Okay. Whereas like a lot of hard rock can, especially to like an untrained ear, someone who's not listened to a ton of rock music, I can kind of understand how like a lot of hard rock sounds the same. It's just a bunch of, heavy drums going, guitar shredding, screaming. Like if you're not someone who's like been around those instruments and like has an ear for breaking down the different sounds these oftentimes very talented musicians are making, it can just sound like a lot of like loud noise, right?
Yes.
Indie rock definitely has a lot more variation in just how they sound, as far as like, again, it's all usually softer and poppier, but just the nature of being in that indie space lets them kind of tweak it, and you can just have some unique things that you mainly wouldn't find, in the other genre, so to speak.
For sure.
Okay, well, I guess that's really all I want to talk about before we dive into the music. Well, I do want to know what songs did you know, if you can remember?
Yeah. Okay, so I was familiar with Through Glass by Stone Sour. I was familiar with Smooth Criminal with Carlos Santana and
Yes.
Rob Thomas.
I don't know why you added the Criminal in there. It's just Smooth.
You know what?
Smooth Criminal is
Michael Jackson.
It's Michael Jackson.
And Alien Ant Farm.
Alien Ant Farm. That's true.
So that's the why I threw the Criminal in there. So Smooth by Santana and Carlos.
Or Rob Thomas.
Thank you.
Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20 sings with Santana on that song.
Yes.
Because Santana, just real quick, is, not to interrupt you, but it's one of those groups that the band, literally every member but Carlos Santana has changed, sometimes depending on the position, like several times over the years. But also, he's been a band since 1966, 68, something like that. So,
and the other song, Snuff by Slipknot, I was familiar with that one. The other ones I was familiar with not most of them, but like I was familiar with some of the bands. But not the song in particular by that band.
Okay. Well, it's funny, as you said, Through Glass, right? By Stone Sour?
Yeah.
Was the first one you said? Yeah. So I didn't realize, honestly, until like researching just a little bit for this episode, Stone Sour and Slipknot, Corey Taylor is the lead singer for both. And that blew my mind, dude, so much. It blew my mind so hard.
Hold up. I need a moment.
In fact, let me blow your mind again. Technically, bro, Stone Sour was created before Slipknot. Or maybe that's not technically. I think Corey Taylor formed Stone Sour and they were like in the process of recording their first album whenever Slipknot was like auditioning different singers. So they'd already been a band for a minute, but they were like trying to find a new singer.
Yeah.
And then Corey Taylor heard they were auditioning, so he went out and tried, and then just, I guess, really gelled with them. So stuck with them, made Slipknot. Slipknot makes their first 2 albums. They blow up. And then in between, I believe, I might have my timeline slightly out of course here, but I believe in between the second and third albums, or maybe between the third and fourth, he goes back to Stone Sour, gets them up and running, makes an album or 2 with them, then comes back to Slipknot and is bouncing back and forth.
I'm sorry, I have not recovered from that last little bit. You don't understand how my mind is fucking blown right now.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had the same reaction, dude. I had to just like set my phone down and just like stop and like go through the discography of both these groups in my head that I've listened to since I was in like middle school, dude. I've been listening to these groups.
Wow. Okay. I'm yeah. Continue. I'm still processing that. Like I'm like at like 85% like recovered. But whoa, that's just.
And God, like once I've told you that, if you go back and listen,
I hear it now. Like in my head, I hear
if you just listen to Through Glass and then Snuff back to back. Like it's so obvious, and I'm kind of like. I've been kicking myself for like a week and a half, dude, since I read that.
That is wow. I had no freaking idea. That's nuts. Like this is the same feeling when I discovered that Audioslave and Soundgarden was the same was Chris Cornell singing for both.
Which, since you brought that up, and go ahead and dive into that as well. Another thing I didn't know, I knew that Audioslave was a super group, and then it had Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine and what's the singer?
Chris Cornell.
Chris Cornell, thank you. I was like, you just said it. Why am I blanking? And I knew I had those two. What I didn't know is that the drummer and bassist are also from Rage Against the Machine. So it's literally Rage Against the Machine minus their singer. Their singer is just being subbed for Chris Cornell, which I didn't know that. I thought it was just Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine, and then it was a random other drummer and bassist that I could never remember where they were from. But the fact I can never remember where they're from is because they're also from Rage Against the Machine.
Which, listening to the playlist, I picked up on Tom Morello's guitar riffs in both songs. Like I have my Tom Morello ear now, so like I know when I hear his like his weird guitar pedal sound effect, whatever that he uses a lot. So like, okay, I know Tom Morello when I hear it now. But man, that's
okay. So blown with the Chris or the Corey Taylor.
Yeah. I got to get past this. Okay.
All right. Well, I want to know if you have any. What songs on here did you not like? Were there any songs you didn't like that you didn't vibe with or you didn't appreciate?
I mean, I wouldn't say that I didn't appreciate, but there were some that I liked less than others, I would say. The one that I love the message in the song, but I can't get in my feelings like that. And that was Hero of War by Rise Against. I listened to that song a couple times and I got too much into my feelings and I was just like, yeah, this is one I got to skip. Love the messaging in it, but that one was like, oof.
That was one that I was like, at that point I already had like 30 something songs. And then at that point, whenever I was making the playlist, I had mostly, it was either like a bunch of classic rock or it was a bunch of like just rocking out, like balls at the wall, rock out songs. And I was like, well, the whole song that started this was Nutshell, and it's not really either of those things. So I need more songs, at least a couple more songs like that on here. And Hero of War came to mind because it hits right in the gut.
It does. Yeah. And me being the kind of empathetic person that I am, I'm just like, oof, just thinking about that whole scenario. Like, I love my country, but I definitely couldn't go out there like to do that. And just the whole, okay. Well, I'm not gonna bring the podcast down. But anyway, what I'm saying is it's definitely a trigger warning song if you feel some kind of way about war and veterans and the way our veterans are treated in this country after they've done so much and the promises and all that stuff. That was a hard listen.
Just what they go through just in general, like the horrors of war itself. Yeah, it definitely combined with everything you just said. But yeah, it's definitely not a lighthearted, jovial song that you can just put on in the background and have a good romping time. And that's not this song.
Definitely not that one.
I was curious on if you would like connect to that one with it being kind of a more emotional topic like you did Nutshell, or if that would, because of the heavy topic, if you would not. So not like that one, but not like want to listen to it a lot, I guess.
Yeah. So I like the messaging in it. It's it's fine. It's a beautiful song. I don't dislike it. I just know it's not a repeat listen. It's kind of like, okay, you listen to the song, you digest it, and you move on. With Nutshell, that song got to me sonically first. And especially with like the long intro before you even start singing, just the melody
and then the long outro as well with the guitar.
Long outro, it just really puts me in a certain kind of, I would say, almost meditative state, because I get to kind of just vibe out and just listen to the music and let the music speak for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you go ahead and dissect the lyrics even further into the song, then you compound that with what the music is saying. It just made me hard to listen to the playlist because I kept getting stuck on the first song. That's when I text you. I was like, I'm having a hard time with this playlist. I keep getting stuck on certain songs, and that was one of the songs I had to keep like on repeat. I was like, okay, now I got to move on to Led Zeppelin.
Well, and if you're just comparing like Nutshell to Hero, they're similar in a lot of ways, but they're also vastly different, especially sonically. Hero of War is much more, it's just got that basic acoustic, doesn't really have any extra instrumentation. It's also a lot more lyrics, whereas in Nutshell, the scarcity of lyrics both plays into the theme of the song, but then also just lets both what he's saying and the music breathe a little bit more.
Yes.
You don't get that in Hero of War, but you also don't really get music that needs to breathe. So yeah, I definitely get what you're saying. Were there any others that kind of kind of tripped you up, or you found yourself maybe skipping here and there?
Okay, so the poppy rock songs of Fall Out Boy and Panic at the
Panic at the
Disco.
Disco.
Okay,
So,
now
okay, technically, sir, those are emo rock, I'll have you know, which was
Okay.
the reason I put them on here.
Okay,
Because
perfect.
that was definitely a time of my life when that was like all I listened to was emo rock. So,
Okay, cool. All right, good. I'm glad I have an understanding of that now. So, God damn it, I guess I was emo. I guess I did go through an emo phase and didn't realize it because I like Fall Out Boy. I don't like all of their songs, but majority of them I do like.
this was like their first, or this is maybe their like second big hit.
Oh well, the one I like is "This Ain't a Scene." It's a goddamn road race or whatever, rat race.
Thanks for the memories.
Yes.
I almost put that one on here, but again, I think we had talked previously, and you had mentioned you really like that song, so I was like, he already knows that one.
Exactly.
Even though I do think, because that's off the same album, if I'm not mistaken, from Dance Dance, I believe. Could be wrong. Actually, let me double check that. Oh no. That yeah. Okay, so this is off of their first album or second studio album, but it has their like first big hit in Sugar We're Going Down and Dance Dance were like their first two big hits. And then the next album had Thanks for the Memories and another big hit. So yeah, sorry, second album.
Okay, sweet. So I know you probably clarified this beforehand because I think we had this conversation before, but I think I probably asked somebody else the same thing too. But in my head canon, I can't let it go. Are the lead singers in Panic at the Disco and Fall Out Boy the same person? Because they sound the same to me in my head.
No, they're not the same. I feel like if you go back and listen to other emo rock, like My Chemical Romances, and I'm having trouble thinking of other big other big emo rock bands of that time. I feel like they all very much so sounded alike.
Okay.
Like there's a lot of bleed over in their sounds, both instrumentation and singing wise.
Okay. Well, yeah, like they sound different as far as like the music, but the vocals, I was like, is this the same guy in two different bands that are popular around the same time? I was just like, they sound exactly the same to me in my head.
At least I'm like 90% sure they're not. They're looking them up. They are titled a pop band, actually. So maybe I guess that's changed since they came out.
Maybe they started emo and eventually became pop.
Or, again, just with the ever-changing nature of music, especially nowadays, maybe pop rock was not really a genre that was given out at the time.
That's true.
So Brendan Urie is Panic at the Disco singer, and Fall Out Boy singer is... Now, it looks like they have several singers, but it looks like the two main ones were Patrick Stump and Pete Wentz, I guess.
Pete Wentz
is also the bassist, but I guess he hops on some vocalists here and there. But yeah, it says, according to Wikipedia, the lead vocalist was Patrick Stump. So Brendan Urie and Patrick Stump were Panic at the Disco and Fall Out Boy's singers. But I do agree. They do sound like just their tone of voice is very similar. I feel like just like record labels, whichever group made that like emo rock sound like popular first, they were just scrambling of like who has this sound. Yeah. And just, if you were close to that sound, you were signed and pumped out music just like this over here.
Exactly. Make me money.
Yeah.
Print me money.
Because I guess Panic at the Disco is still making music in 2024, but like I think Fall Out Boy is the only one that's still like making like, I could be wrong in this actually, but I feel like they're the only ones that's like making songs that are still like somewhat popular. I've not really heard of any like Panic at the Disco songs like blowing up in recent years, whereas like Fall Out Boys definitely had at least a handful, like maybe 3 or 4 songs over the years that I still will hear just out and about.
Yeah, I liked they did a remix with Juicy J, and like they did a couple of other good collaborations. So that's why I like.
They did a song with Elton John, which was kind of neat because like I would never put my own bias here, but I would never, even though I love Fall Out Boy, I would never put them as like a Rock Hall of Fame tier group or anything. So just to like have them get a collab and like a shout out from Elton John, who's like, a legend in his own right, is I thought that's kind of neat.
Yeah, I'm probably like one of 2 people that actually like the Fall Out Boy Ghostbusters remake with Missy Elliott, partially because Missy Elliott was on it, but also I actually do like how they flipped the beat up. But I
also like their We Didn't Start the Fire that came out a few years ago. With like some updated lyrics.
The other song that I skipped because I've heard the song ad nauseum and it automatically takes me back to my high school years and I don't want to go back. And that's Smooth with Rod Thomas and Santana because they wore the ever loving fuck out of that song. And I can't.
That's fair. That's fair. I do remember hearing that song a lot. I think at the time, I mean, obviously, again, Carlos Santana's been a popular musician since the 60s.
Absolutely.
This was definitely around the time when Matchbox 20 was kind of at their peak. So Rob Thomas was definitely, if not a household name, a household like sound. I feel like a lot of people recognize his voice. One thing you probably noticed is the majority of these songs are very guitar centric.
Yep. I noticed that.
This is just one that, again, Santana is like, one of the like OG Guitar Hero type musicians from the 60s and 70s and is still playing to this day. So I feel like he deserves a song somewhere on the playlist, and Smooth is it's one of my favorites of him.
I like that one, but I also love the song that he did.
She's a black magic woman. That one. That's probably his like most popular song.
Probably. No, not that one. The one that I absolutely love is Do You Like the Way? And it's Santana featuring CeeLo Green and Lauryn Hill. And that one is it's so fucking good. Lauryn Hill starts off with the rap verse, bodies it, murders it. I believe either she or CeeLo did the production on it. And then, so it starts out with Lauryn rapping and killing it. And then a guitar solo from Santana. And then this is when I first learned that CeeLo Green can sing. And because that was, I think it was like maybe like 99 or whenever this song came out. And that's when I heard, I was like, featuring CeeLo Green. I was like, oh yeah, that's the guy from Goody Mob. He about to rap. And then I hear him like singing the rest of that song out. I was like, oh my God. Like my mind was completely blown. I'm gonna send you that song and let you.
Because I'm actually not familiar with that song. I'd love to hear it. I love when rap and guitar mixes.
Oh, it's so good. But yeah, that was I think those are the only ones that I kind of purposely kind of skipped around.
Not to say that you loved all the rest of them just so much, but they at least didn't agitate you enough that you felt you had to skip them.
Exactly.
And speaking of your favorite songs, let's go ahead and dive into that. So we've kind of talked about songs you didn't like. I want to know what songs you loved off of this, but I want to know which songs you just kept coming back to.
I have 2 songs on here that I could not get enough of.
Okay.
The first song, Welcome Home by Coheed and Cambria.
Dude, I'm so happy you love that song, man.
That song had me in the chokehold, my guy. That song is so fucking good. And I know it's rock, and I know the thing about, so the one thing that really made me curious about rock back in the day was I had friends that kept trying to denigrate hip hop and say rap is basic and stupid and repetitive, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, nah, it's not, I felt some kind of way. Then I started listening to rock and I realized, okay, there's some part to it, but I don't like the tone in which you had said it. So hip hop, is loop based for the most part. It has changed over time, but back in the day, it was pretty much loop based. You kind of knew you had your 8 bars, you had your bridge, you had your chorus. Kind of was formulaic for the most part. Nowadays, hip hop has become more varied and less structured and more variation. But at the time, it wasn't. So going into rock, there's a lot more variations. There's different riffs and choruses and solos. There's like a lot of changing in the song, like not necessarily the lyric structure per se, but in the song itself, sonically, there's a lot of change. Yeah. So going into this song, it has the variations, but they are very like on time, on beat, like with the repetition. So it's like you can do a metronome to that. That being said, there's moments, especially in the beginning, where it does like has an intro and then it's like like that part. I just started freestyling. I couldn't help myself. So it kind of has that moment. It has that vibe, and then I just love the progression and then the chords and the strings and the choir.
It musically very much keeps you on your toes. I feel like
it does, and it painted a whole soundscape for me, and I kept coming back to it because it was just yes, they had the lyrics, and I loved the register of his voice and the way they were singing and all of that. It was great, and then it just again when you add rock strings and a choir, like I'm just putty on the floor, like that's just I'm there. It's so good.
Yeah,
it's such a good song.
This song is. There's no special meaning necessarily, or any. This isn't tied to like a specific moment in my life, but it is still an important song for me for some reason. Just everything you just said, the singing, like the tone of his voice, the singer's voice is unique and draws me in. Musically, like sonically, all of the instrumentation is just phenomenal. The guitar solo at the end is outstanding. And then, of course, just to top it all off, lyrically, it's probably the most like poetic, I feel like, on the playlist, arguably. Which I don't know if you were able to parse the meaning of the lyrics, but just a quick breakdown. It's literally the singer and his, I think, girlfriend, if I remember right, girlfriend at the time had split up. And so this is like that moment where like you want to get back together, but you're also like angry at the other person. And so that's that back and forth of like, you know, I really like it's hard to like move on, but also just the way you just did me was dirty and I'm not happy about it. So you get that. You get like he's being kind of vitriolic towards this woman in the song in several lines, but he's also like, I can't live without you. You know, what is my life without you in it type deal. And so this that dichotomy. I feel like he expresses that like emotionally through his singing as well.
Yeah. Without even knowing that, I can now that you're telling me the story behind it, I can feel that through the music. Yeah, it definitely paints a score to that kind of scenario.
And I think this song is one of the earliest examples I can remember of me finding specifically a rock song or a rock group that their sound kind of was outside the box a little bit. And me just like discovering like, oh, this unique sound. I love this. I want more uniqueness, and like kind of going out of my way to find songs that didn't really fit the popular, what was on the radio mold, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely gives those vibes. And this song made me remember a band that somebody else put me on to a while back that I've kind of forgotten about, and it makes me want to go back and listen to them all over again. And that's I believe the band is Apocalyptica, I believe.
I have not heard of them.
Yeah, so they are a rock band that basically uses like a full orchestra with their music.
Okay.
So like every song is like full on score, like everything is just like epic. So I listened to that album way back when, and I was like blown away, and haven't really listened to them since. I'm not sure if they're still active or not, but I know that album I've heard, it was epic. Like basically symphonic, like symphony music with rock mixed together. So I was like, yeah. So this song made me think about them, and then, but I do particularly like their sound. So I'm a fan. This is the only song I heard about them, but I'm a fan. So hopefully,
and they're still making music. Like I think because I was listening to this song so much in the last couple months, they just recently had a single like this past week, as of this recording, at least.
Oh, nice.
I've not listened to it yet because we've had a lot of music to listen to.
Yes,
but I definitely plan to listen to that. So I've not listened to them since around the time this came out. And this is like 2008. Oh, wow. This album was 2005.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah. I guess I really am stuck in that 2005 to like early 2010 era of rock. That seems to be my sweet spot, apparently.
This playlist tends to show I have definitely a big part of myself is trapped there as well, at least.
Nice. Moving on to my second favorite song is Icky Thump.
Icky Thump. Yes, this is, I know everyone knows Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes. Personally, I think Icky Thump is the better song. I think it deserves to be more well known, but I feel like a lot of people just don't know about it. It got overlooked.
Yeah. I love the intro, and I don't know what instrument it is, but I love the weird synthesized Renaissance fair sounding instrument that they have. that's used in the intro as well as like in the breakdown in the solo portion of the song.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely I love this song. It's such a vibe, and I love the lyrics when he said basically to kick yourself out
White
of America.
Americans, what? Nothing better to do? Why don't you kick yourself out? You're an immigrant too.
Yep. I was like, preach, brother, preach.
So I believe the whole album, which is also named Icky Thump, one,
Okay.
it does throughout uses kind of some like the instrumentation, whatever instrument that is, it uses stuff like that just throughout. And then two, it very much is about like immigrants and just like our, and this was like 2007, I believe, with this when that album came out.
Oh,
And so
wow.
it's still obviously very pertinent today.
Yeah.
And just, you know, he talks about the album like the politics of immigration and everything, and us being neighborly and not being neighborly and all that. So good album. Definitely recommend checking out the whole album. But yeah, the song itself, I love the just his like the cadence of the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
Like the it's like an up and down,
Yes.
almost like the no 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 no, and then just that coupled with the instrumentation. It's got of course Jack White's a phenomenal guitarist. He's got some good guitar. He's got a great guitar solo in the middle of the songs.
I love that solo. It's like I love it.
And like the whatever effect they use, like the like just like to get that like that squeaky sound on the guitar is just it brings me so much happiness.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love Snuff, of course, but you know we discussed that already. Since it's the same freaking singer, I'm still not over that. And then the other song that I like was where is it? Drawing a blank. Oh, Backcountry by Avenged Sevenfold, and there's a part there's a part specifically around the 2:55 mark in the song where during the solo it goes full video game. Like it sounds like a video game soundtrack to me, and I get giddy every time I hear it.
Okay, I'm curious what makes it video gamey. How?
I don't know. It just sounds like, you know, like if you go back to like our video game episode that we did, it sounds like it will be like a scene of like in like a Sonic game or something. It just is like, you know, when it goes like it's like it's like it just makes me think of like you're playing Sonic or playing Mario or something like that would be like in the background.
It's definitely got like an 8-bit type guitar sound almost. I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
So are you familiar at all with like Avenged Sevenfold just as a group?
Yeah, there is a song by them I like. I can't think of what the name of it is right now, but there's a song by them I did like. I found the song, Almost Easy.
Almost Easy. Okay, yeah.
That was the song by them that I got put onto by one of my coworkers back in the day, and I was like, oh, okay.
That song almost was the song on the playlist. I had to listen. I spent like a day or like an entire afternoon, evening just listening to Avenged Sevenfold, trying to decide what song by them I wanted. It's like I knew I needed to have them on here just because I listened to them so much as a kid. But
man, and again, that song came out in 2007.
2007, which I think this was their first, or maybe their second album. Oh, third. Okay, so third album, not as early as I thought.
Jeez,
and a lot of the lyrics from the song, just a quick fun fact, are straight up ripped from, even the title of the song itself is ripped from Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, like the book. Like he who can't stand up makes a beast out of the man, or whatever, like whatever little speaking part he says at the beginning, and I think he says it a few more times throughout. That's like a direct quote. And Backcountry itself is referring to whenever he was like in a car driving through the desert in the book, and he's like tripping out on all the hallucinogens. He's literally seeing giant bats and manta rays just swimming through the sky, and he's like having, you know, a freak out over it in the book. And so that's what Backcountry is referring to.
Oh, I thought it was Batman related or something. I know.
That would be cooler. And this is
Backcountry.
And a sad, ironic twist, Hunter S. Thompson took his own life just a year after the song came out.
Oh, that sucks.
Yes, it does.
Hold on, that's the author, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. I thought that 100% was in the band.
No,
Okay.
no. The author of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which
Mhm.
this song takes a lot of references from,
Okay.
killed himself.
Oh, well, that's
A year.
unfortunate, but I don't read, so. Okay.
So, a fun fact about that I found in researching the song.
Okay. I wish I was more of an avid reader, but I'm not.
Well, to be fair, I've not read Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Oh.
Just literally, I just Googled what is Backcountry about a couple days ago, and that's where I found that out.
Wow.
Well, okay. Is there any others that you would love to talk about before I bring up some of the ones I'd love to talk about?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, overall, I mean, trying to see. Yeah, we talked about Cochise, right? Or Cochise.
I was about to bring. I mean, we kind of talked about just Audiohead being a band, but we didn't actually talk about the songs.
Gotcha. Okay, so yeah, Cochise. Well, okay, so I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so the first 8, all love. Every last one of those.
Same.
And that's kind of where I kind of got stuck because I kept going back over those same, 8 songs over and over and over and over and over again.
I agree with you. I definitely skipped past that. Like those first 8, I also would listen to pretty much every time, and then after that, I would kind of start skipping around.
Yeah,
I can admit, depending on my mood.
Facts. But yeah. I would love to know more about some of the other ones you have. So enlighten me.
Okay, well, you mentioned Cochise, so I'm just gonna, I guess, tackle Cochise and Bulls on Parade back to back because I want to talk about both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Cochise is literally, according to Chris Cornell, it was written like first Audioslave came together and like started writing as a band whenever Chris Cornell was in rehab.
Okay.
And so this song, I believe, was written during that time, if I remember right. And it's basically a song in Chris Cornell's words about like him talking to himself in the mirror. Okay. And like where he's at. And so like it's his own personal battle of the addiction, but wanting to be better, but then still falling back. Like literally the first chord or first verse where it's like you're drinking yourself to death, so I'm gonna drink to health. It's like he's starting to get like a back and forth devil and angel on the shoulder kind of thing.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's just him, in his own Chris Cornell way, singing about his struggle with that.
Yeah, I miss that man's voice. He was such a phenomenal singer.
I agree. He was a like one of a kind. Like I don't know of anyone else. Other people can sing like to that caliber, but not in the same way he did. I feel like that I've heard. He was definitely a unique style of singing. Cochise is probably my favorite Audioslave song, but this whole album, dude, I think this was their first album. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is their debut album, just called Audioslave. Like Cochise is literally the number one, like this, the first song on the album. And so you just hit play on that. And to me, man, it's just an hour and 5 minutes of just pure rock bliss, just the whole album.
Hell yeah.
Like some other favorites, Gasoline, I think Like a Stone and Cochise were their 2 like single biggest hits off the album. Mm-hmm. Which I guess makes sense. Exploder's also great. Bringing Back Alive, like my says, they're all good. They're all so good. How Tom Morello, like whenever he was making that solo, he actually tried to make it like what his goal was to make it like a vinyl record. It's like skipping kind of. And personally, I think he nailed it. I looked it up. He had to use like some specific pedals and he used like a specific technique to kind of make that sound. Yeah, kind of like you said at the top of the episode, I think Tom Morello definitely has a very specific style of playing that's once you've heard it a few times, you start kind of keying in on it. It's pretty obvious that it's him whenever he plays. I will say not all of his solos have that like he does have different sounds, but I don't know. To me, at least, I can still easily like hear and pick out a Tom Morello solo for the most part. But yeah, so Audioslave became a thing whenever Rage Against the Machine kind of fell apart. I don't know if it was I'm blanking on the singer's name at the moment. I don't know if it was the singer, if it was like his deal of him leaving, or if it was, I don't remember exactly why he left. But basically, like I said earlier, Tom Morello and then I don't have their names written down, so I'm just gonna say the guitarist or the bassist and the drummer of Rage Against the Machine. They were there without a singer, and then that just so happened that right around that exact same time, Soundgarden was splitting up, so Chris Cornell was left without a band. And I guess I don't know how exactly they met up, but somehow they met up or heard that they were, missing each other's missing pieces. Like, oh, hey, we need a singer. Oh, hey, I'm a singer who needs a band. And then they just kind of got together that way.
Mm-hmm. And they said, let's our powers combine.
Yes. And they did. And then they made rock anthems that I'm still vibing out to today.
Right. That's amazing.
And then moving on, I guess this is one of those where I said earlier where it's on the playlist, not in chronological order, because obviously Rage Against the Machine, their music would come before Audioslave, but I didn't know. I had been listening to Audioslave for years before I actually started listening to Rage Against the Machine in my teenage years. They definitely colored my anti-establishment, fight the man mentality that I still definitely hold, at least in some regards. What did you think of the cover by Denzel Curry that I sent you of the song with his rap verse over the solo?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty dope. I was very, very pleased with that. It was one of those kind of remakes where they pay good homage to the original and then try to change it and try to flip it up and make it super unique. It kind of kept the same vibe, and then the verse is like, okay, this is great. So yeah, I take my hat out to him. Like, I appreciate that. It definitely was a good cover and definitely paid homage to Rage Against.
Yeah, like I told you whenever I first sent you the song, he knew the assignment whenever he went into the studio to cover that song rather.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it almost felt like he had the original track. I'm not sure if they redid the entire thing or if he had the original track and just took out the solo part and then just rapped over it. But it was spot on. So yeah, he definitely do the assignment.
So did you just listen to it or did you watch the video?
I just listened to it. I just watched the video. I didn't watch the video. I just listened to it.
If you watch the video, he's playing or he's singing and I guess rapping with live musical artists. So there's a band recreating the song with them in there. Because that's something that's from the Triple J, the Australian radio show. And they always, whenever they have artists on, they always let the artist pick a song to cover. And it can be wildly different from whatever genre that artist is in. And they always have a live performance, a live cover of whatever that song is.
Oh, well,
which is really neat.
Well, that band did a phenomenal job.
They did.
It sounded just like the record.
Even the solo, again, just blew me out of the water. I mean, obviously he copied Tom Morello for a large part of it, but yeah, they did a really good job. The original song itself, again, I didn't really find Rage Against the Machine until they had already not been a band for some time whenever I discovered them in my teenage years. But, songs like Bulls on Parade and Killing in the Name of definitely spoke to teenage angsty me at the time.
I'm saying, and my angsty adult self.
It definitely still speaks to me on some level for sure. But it's funny because, being a teenager and listening to music like this, you don't have the full scope of wisdom to fully, especially being a somewhat sheltered white kid in rural America. I didn't have the full context of what they were talking about. So I'm a little ashamed to admit that literally for the first year, 2 years that I knew of this song, whenever I would listen to it, Rally Around the Family with a Pocket Full of Shells confused me so hard because I did not understand why you would want to rally around a family with a pocket full of seashells. What does that have to do with anything? What are the seashells? Is this some kind of weird metaphor I'm not aware of? And it was definitely during that part of my life where in English class at school, because this is would have been late middle school, early high school. So English class is kind of basic, oh, this author says there's a purple curtain over the window in this paragraph. What does the purple curtain mean? It's that type of stuff. So I was thinking I was piercing behind the veil with my looking into what the lyrics meant, but really I was just so wrong. Like a kid playing adult, acting like I knew what I was talking about.
Right.
But yeah, Rage Against the Machine, they only were in their heyday. I think they were only a band for 5 years or so. They were not a band for super long.
Clearly they didn't like each other, but they try to make it work.
Well, they've also gotten back together, I think, sometime in recent, they at least got together for a tour or something, I want to say.
Yeah.
Sometime recent years. I don't think they stayed to make new music necessarily, but
just to tour the old stuff.
Yeah.
On a personal note, I do find it hilarious that you have Rise Against and Rage Against on the same playlist. And I'm not gonna lie, the amount of times I was like, why you got Rage Against on here twice? And I was like, oh, never mind.
There was one episode a while back you confused those two.
I did. So I was just like, this is crazy.
Well, it's the against. You both have against. And it's an R word against.
Well, it's an R word that ends with E and then against following it. Yeah. So it's just like I'm two letters off plus the machine part. I am curious about what song? It was one song on there. Black Dog by Led Zeppelin.
Okay. I was about to talk about that one next, actually. So I'm glad you said that. Sweet. What were you curious about? Anything specific or
just in general about the song? I mean, because I noticed like we started with Nutshell because that's the one that kind of was the
I kept that one at the front because it was the first one that you wanted to be on the playlist. So I just to harken back to what I said at the beginning with how this whole thing came about, I kept it at the front.
Yeah, and then you started, and then we went right into Black Dog after that. So I was like, okay, I know Led Zeppelin is one of the legendary bands. So I was like, I wonder if there's like a significant meaning behind it, or what.
So to me, outside of Jimi Hendrix Experience, I think Led Zeppelin is my favorite like classic rock band.
Okay.
And they're definitely, it's like them and Black Sabbath are kind of considered like the two like founding bands of what we would consider like metal. Just because they had like the kind of heavier guitar and the longer instrumental breaks and stuff that would become popular in metal music. Black Dog in particular is just, it's arguably my favorite Led Zeppelin song. It's one of those songs that like if someone came up to me and said, hey, I've never heard a single Led Zeppelin song, where should I start? That would be one of the ones I would pick. The other Led Zeppelin song I would probably pick is the one I put on the supplementary listen playlist, Whole Lot of Love. That song in particular, I just really love how the and the wah from the guitar like over like bounce back and forth and overlaying each other. That's just that part. I mean, the whole song is great, but that part in particular I really like. Black Dog though, it's just a really good rock song, dude. It's got the three, what I call the three L's of a blues song. It's got lust, love, and loss, right? It has a really cool like call and response between the singer and the music.
Yes, I was gonna get into that. Like I like how it starts off with that, with him doing the vocals, and then the guitar comes in and just go back and forth. Yes.
It's got that. It's got, of course, knowing me, it has to have a great guitar solo, which it does. Great singing. I feel like this is a really good showcase of Robert Plant's singing range that he can do. And also it's just a fun song to just sing along to and just like, just rock out to, man.
Yeah.
Like whenever I think of like fun songs to rock out to, a lot of classic rock songs, there was a lot more classic rock songs on here. And I've felt like because they've been popularized for the last 60, 50 years that you probably would have at least heard most of them. So that's why most of them are on here. And Led Zeppelin's kind of the only one that remained.
Yeah. So I feel like, I can't pinpoint an exact period of time, but I feel like that Black Dog song has happened onto me at some point in my life.
It probably has. Probably most popular. And this is obviously one of their like top 10 biggest, probably top 5 biggest songs like to date.
Yeah.
So you've definitely almost surely heard it somewhere, at least in passing, in a TV show or movie or something, or
TV show, a bar,
radio show. Yeah. The song title is about it, just to match the theme of the song again, of like love, loss, and love, because it's all very bluesy. He finds a girl, he keeps chasing after her, finds out she's, taking his money, taking his car for a ride, telling all of her friends like, oh, me just dating this dude is going to make me a big star. So he feels used and abused. Loses the girls, all sad, and then ends the song with like, I need a good woman who's going to make me happy. The title was at their studio that they were recording at the time. There was this black lab that they would see in the mornings whenever they'd be getting there to record for the day, for like starting their sessions. The black lab would be slinking back from like walking around at night, and he would be all like tired and wore out and would just sleep all day. And then at night, like whenever they'd be getting ready to leave in the evening, they would see the black dog waking up and he would just like slink off. And Robert Plant assumed he was slinking off to like go get with other black, or not like our other dogs, and to get with other
Black
dogs
matter, sir.
to get with other dogs, and then that's why every time he would come back in the morning, he would just be so tired and sleep all day because he was out all night,
wow,
slinging that thing. So I don't know why I felt the need to say it that way, but it just felt right.
Wow, wow, wow. You be yo.
So, yeah.
Oh, gosh. That's hilarious. So, speaking of... Oh, God, no. That's a terrible segue. Nope, can't go there. I had a good segue, but then it merged. Okay, I'm just going to get into it. So, Heart-Shaped Box. Tell me about that one. I like the song. But before you go into it, the segue I was gonna say, speaking of slanging that thing, heart-shaped box, and then I realized I was about to say, speaking of slanging that thing, Nirvana, but you're also wearing a Nirvana shirt. So I was like, that's just out.
Which I'm glad you called that out, because I definitely wore it on purpose for this episode.
Super on theme. So now after listening to, I like Nirvana. I can't say I'm like a Nirvana connoisseur, but the songs I've heard by them I like. And now it's to the point now where I feel like I'm at a comfortable enough level to where I feel like I can unironically wear the t-shirt now. So I might be getting a Nirvana shirt.
You should. So pretty great. Yeah. So this song in particular, obviously you've heard Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Yes.
Everyone and their mother's heard Smells Like Teen Spirit. So I didn't want to put that one on there. And I'm not the biggest Nirvana fan, but there's definitely like maybe a good handful of songs I like by them. And Heart-Shaped Box might be my favorite. It's another one of those kind of poetic. Definitely, you can add your own meaning to the lyrics in a lot of sense. So Courtney Love, I think after Kurt Cobain's passing, had said in an interview that the song was about him, or the song was he wrote about her. I don't remember because I read straight up some of the interviews with her where she said it. I don't remember if she said this, if it was just like if she kind of made you read between the lines a little bit, but it's potentially in the way that she says it, the heart-shaped box could be her genitals. It could also be the literal like heart-shaped box that she kept like all of like love notes and like love letters and stuff that they exchanged in. However, I think none of that's true. I don't think it's about Courtney Love at all. Personally, I think that was just, I think she had a habit of making everything about her, especially after Kurt Cobain passed, for better or worse, not trying to like denigrate her or anything, make it that way you will. But I think she had a habit of doing that to some degree. And I think that's one of those moments where she kind of made it about her when it really wasn't. Because I think if you look at the lyrics and you break down the lyrics, excuse me, of the song, I think the song is about his mom and how he feels like he is like the reason that his parents split up and that he is the cancer that's like ruining her life and is like killing her. That's why he has the line like, lower your umbilical noose so I can climb right back in, because he wishes he was just like never born and his family's life would be better without him in it. That's after listening to this song a lot and really thinking about it, that's where I've kind of landed. But again, it's very much open to interpretation. Okay.
Yeah, I guess I'm a pervert because I was literally thinking about the genitalias when it was like the heart-shaped box. That was the vibe I was getting.
There's a reason she said that, because definitely if you're just listening to it kind of, not, I don't want to say at surface level, but just like, the initial listen, that's kind of what it brings to mind, I feel like. Because that's definitely what I thought it was for a long time, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, either way, I love the song for what it is. I like the sonic, the guitar, the sound of it all. I guess that's Nirvana's considered grunge.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's another one of my sweet spots. I think now I like the grunge sound. That seems to be a sound I gravitate towards for better and or for worse.
It's grunge is hit or miss for me. Some grunge songs and grunge artists I like really vibe with, and some not so much. I guess that's really with any genre and any sound, so to speak.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I also want to talk about just going down through these first 8, like you said, man. Coming Undone.
Yes. Which I did listen to was that Franchise Boys remix?
Them Franchise Boys, yeah.
Yeah. So again, I just listened to it. I didn't watch it. So was that like a video clip? There
was a video, but I think they literally just like merged their.
It was like a mashup, right?
It was a mashup of their separate music videos. It wasn't a whole new music video with them together. It had like parts of the Lean With It, Rock With It video and the parts of like the Coming Undone video. Like whenever it cuts to them, it's like them singing and like the background is like shattering and then background is shattering and then like they're unraveling later in the song. But then the Lean With It, Rock With It is literally just them just doing the Lean With It, Rock With It. And just
okay, yeah. So it was definitely a classic mashup then. Well, I like the original. Mashup was okay. It was entertaining for what it was.
Yeah, I think the original's better. But it just, in listening to this, reminded me of the mashup. That it was definitely one of the earliest times in my life where I like really listened to a rock rap mashup like that and like really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So Korn was also one of the ones that was kind of my gateway drug into rock, along with Linkin Park.
They're definitely new metal, much like Linkin Park are. I would say them and Linkin Park are kind of like, I don't know if they're the best, but for me, they're like top 3 at least. I don't know who else would be up there with them, but
yeah. So just like, Freak on the Leash, when I heard that, I was just like,
see, I almost had that one on here, but I was like, I bet he knows this.
Oh, yeah, I know that one for sure. So getting into Korn, like that was kind of like, okay, I kind of can get into this. That was my gateway drug, and here I am now, just fascinated with a lot of the new metal or just metal music in general. So yeah. So Coming Undone, classic Korn, just the energy with it. I'm coming like
wait.
Yep.
Which is the one part that like you really see or you really hear, I guess, in the remix, like while in the middle of the Lean With It, Rock With It verses, you just randomly hear, wait.
Lean with it, rock with it. This is such a random cross up. So Through Glass, which I mentioned earlier, and Stones. Oh no, we already talked about that, so we can omit that.
Well, one I want to talk about is "I Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor" by Arctic Monkeys.
Okay.
Nothing really. I don't have anything deep in particular about this song I want to get into. I love. First of all, I could have picked just about any early Arctic Monkeys song. Their like older discography before they really blew up with like everything after AM. I've not been the biggest fan of. Everything AM and before, I think is gold, and I can listen to literally all of that. Just a giant playlist of just those albums all day, every day. I Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor is one of my favorites from that era of their discography. Just it's very like upbeat, and it's a jam and a half. And then just what lyrically what he's singing about. Just I'm not. He even says that I'm not looking for no Julie or no Capulet and like whatever the Romeo and Juliet family names are. Like he's not looking for some like this exotic crazy love story. Like no, I bet you look good on the dance floor. Can we just go out and have just a good time tonight? Like that's all I'm asking for is just a good time.
Yeah,
which is I can definitely get behind just not being just your prototypical love song and like doing something a little different with it.
Yeah, absolutely. No stakes. It's just have fun.
Yeah.
Vibe out. And like that's the vibe I got while listening to that one. And luckily you put that after Hero of War, because that was a pick me up after being depressed.
That was somewhat intentional because the next few all could be like, as far as like how I placed them, I could have placed them really in like any order. But yeah, I kind of felt like Hero of War needed an upbeat cleanser after you got done with that.
Absolutely. One of my other favorites that I forgot to mention earlier that I did not spend as much time with because I kind of got stuck in the first 8. But once I finally made it past the first 8, She Wants to Know by Half Moon Run is such a good song, man.
This is where I kind of start getting into my, I Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor is really the first, but She Wants to Know by Half Moon Run is another indie rock song on the playlist. It's another thing where another time where the whole album this song is from just it's one of those you can just press play from track 1 and just listen through all of them, and they're all so good.
Yeah, so you've already converted me over to from Moon Taxi, like as far as like one of those kind of bands that like you just press play and just let it ride. Half Moon Run and Coheed and Cambria, like those are on my list right now of like bands that like
which
jam out over the holidays.
Half Moon Run is another one of those groups that I definitely jammed out to like their first 2, maybe 3 albums, but I've not listened to them like recently. So I think they have at least an album or so that's come out not too long ago that I definitely have been meaning to go back and listen to. Because they're really good. They're just a really good indie rock.
Yeah, they dropped the album last year and they have a new single out now.
Yeah, so I've not heard any of that, but I'm definitely going to at some point. I don't know. As far as I can tell, the song is just about a couple that has, a family together and they're like fighting and like on the verge of splitting up. And it's just like this. It's from the viewpoint of the the singer is singing like as he's going through those emotions and stuff.
Yeah, it's still a good vibe. I just love the singing in it, and just again the instrumentation. It gets me.
The instrumentation and like the scream he does is the scream he does is really what gets me.
Yeah.
One last thing on Half Moon Run, or particular she wants to know. This was definitely one of the songs. I'm glad that you really enjoyed this one because this was one of the ones. Like there's a handful of songs on here, and we've talked about several of them. This was maybe the most on the playlist that like whenever I put it on here, I was like, I really hope he likes this song and he likes this group and he wants to go find more of them. Because like I felt like it'd be up your alley, and just I don't know what it is about them. Something just the combination of like the sound. It's not necessarily like they're like super technically like the musicians are not like super technically like great skilled music like on the songs.
No, it's like so for me like on the song in particular, it's I love the passion with it. So it starts off.
Yes, you feel the passion. That's it.
Yes. It starts off very soft and like you kind of meandering, kind of talking to himself a little bit, and then you hear it come on out, and then he's like, "Gotta let it all out," and I love that space between like let it all like do, and then it gets back into it like it lets it breathe.
And then it also has I think it's guitar and it's just like slowly builds back up.
Yes,
it's just really good. And I also love he doesn't do it as much on this song, but some of the other songs he has like a kind of like he hits like a falsetto almost. Like he goes high, but then he brings it back down, and just anytime you're like showing range like that, obviously you and me love that. So
yep, absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, that makes me very happy because I have loved them since this album came out in like 2011 ish.
Oh wow.
2013. Okay.
I would say because
I was in college already.
Yeah, this song gives me what was that one band that I got stuck on that you made me a separate playlist for? It makes me think of
Cage the Elephant.
Yes. It gives me
similar.
a little bit of that vibe. It makes me want to listen to both of them back to back.
They definitely have some similarities. I'll admit they're both definitely indie rock. They're both in that genre. I feel like, even though again, Cage the Elephant is not independent at all. Yeah. They get lumped in because they have that sound.
Understood.
So the only other song I really wanted to talk about that we haven't already, there's a few that we've kind of skipped. They're good. I like all these again, but the one that I really want to talk about is Bad Company.
Okay.
And it's a cover. I sent you the original by the group Bad Company. It's their self-titled album / song, Bad Company.
Okay. Because I listened to it, I was just like, why does this sound familiar? I had one of your moments. I was like, why does this sound familiar? That was original.
It sounds like the cadence of the singing is similar, but it's like definitely like an old school rock song versus Five Finger Death Punch. Like it's a more modern take.
Yes. And
they also changed some of the lyrics to like be more relevant and modern to them. Like instead of a 6-shooter gun, it's a shotgun. I was born with a shotgun in my hand instead of a 6-shooter in my hand. There's a line where like we were known, like the Bad Company's line, the band Bad Company's line is like we were known for, and then they say like one of their songs or albums or something, and I think Death Punch swaps it out for like one of their albums. So there's little touches like that, and just I don't know. This is one of those songs for me that just harkens back to me being like back in high school whenever I was like first had my license and I was driving around and it was just me by myself listening to music in a car. This was one of those songs that was like one of my go-to songs at the time.
Okay, so sidebar. Let's just talk about that feeling. There is nothing better than when you first get your license and you can drive legally solo and you get to blast music that you really want to hear at whatever volume you want to hear.
Because before that, like maybe if my sister, because my sister's older than me, so she was obviously driving a few years before me. If I was driving with her somewhere and she let me, on the rare occasion, she would let me pick music, then yeah, she would let me like blast my music. But a lot of times I couldn't do that if I was with my parents because first and foremost, most of the music I was listening to was like not parent friendly. Like
Exactly.
I didn't want to be playing like blasting music with my mom right next to me talking about beat the pussy up, you know, or something like that. Like, and that's what I was starting to listen to at the time.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's such a good feeling, dude. You're right. Whenever you just, I remember just literally everywhere I went, my radio, my volume was turned all the way up. I was blasting windows down.
I busted so many speakers.
Yes.
Man. Like, and that was back in the day when you can like, I'm about to show my age a little bit, but back in the day when you can like actually go in the trunk and replace the speakers and swap them out, you know, and get better quality speakers after you bust them. Now everything is so integrated. You got to, you know, take off your muffler just to put a new speaker in your front.
Which is so annoying.
You know? It's so crazy. But yeah, just like when listening to Bad Company, I actually really do like the Five Finger Death Punch version. The beginning part of it makes me think of what's the name? Jensen Ackles band.
Radio something?
Radio Company. It's just like it makes me think of it like a little bit.
That down tempo, somber
Americana vibe.
They both have deep voices that they're just like really. They're not like. I don't want to put it. They're harnessing the deep voice and like giving themselves. I feel like I keep saying this, but they're giving themselves like space to breathe. Yeah. Like for the lyrics to breathe. Yeah, definitely. I could definitely see that. But then in the second half,
metal comes in. Yeah, it just
then it
completely rocks off. Yep. I love it. Yeah. So that's a good pick. I enjoyed that once I got a chance to get down there. It's just, again, I kind of got stuck on the first half of the playlist. And then once I got down there, I'm just like, oh, damn, these are some bangers. And then followed by Snuff. I was just like, oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And to close it out with Woman.
Woman, perfect. You know you're woman. You got to be a woman. You got the feeling of love. It's a terrible singing, but
hey, you know.
Yeah, that was actually like a last minute addition because, okay, so I remembered this song, right? And went looking for this song, and in looking for this song, re-stumbled over Coheed and Cambria, and I was like, oh my God, Welcome Home. I love this song back, and like it completely sidetracked me off of finding this song. And it was like a couple weeks later, I remembered to go back and find it. And it was like after I finally found this song was when I was like, all right, I think I'm done here. Here's the playlist. Oh man. And that's just I'm surprised you hadn't heard that one because I feel like that's definitely one that like you heard all over the radio. It was like pretty big back in the day. Wolfmother is another Australian band. So much like you in Europe, I definitely have a thing for Australian bands, it seems like.
Yeah. So I think around that time is when I kind of checked out and started going more into the EDM route. Because, you know, I think I kind of just got fed up with that whole sound.
That was also 2005.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of when I started to kind of venture out a little bit more.
So just real quick, the only other songs we didn't really talk about was 45 by Shinedown and Remedy by Seether.
Yeah.
They're both good rock songs. 45 definitely sounds like on paper it's about suicide. According to the lead singer of Shinedown, it is not. It's about moving on to the next stage of your life and the process of that. How in the world you're talking about staring down the barrel of a 45 and it doesn't mean you're contemplating suicide? I don't know. Yeah. There was also a controversy whenever I was reading up about the song about how, like, even in the music video, it showed like a dude with a gun. I don't know if he actually like, you know, puts it to his head or anything like that, but it was like censored on MTV whenever they would play it, like after it came out, like they would just like blur that whole like section of the screen. And like, they were very upset because obviously MTV had other things that they felt were like even more inappropriate they would play and not have censors. So they were like, why are you censoring us? It's not okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's part of it, if they was like trying to like change the narrative after the fact. And that's why he came out and said all that. Or if he really just meant it and it just happened to be, he used some, you know, suicidal adjacent lyrics. And this was also their first album. It's, I think, something to keep in mind. So they were trying to, I believe this is their first album at least. Yep, this is a debut studio album by Shinedown. So I also may have played a factor. And then trying to, you know, make a
make a name for themselves.
Make a name for themselves and not be known as like, oh, that band that got censored for suicide stuff on MTV. Like I could see that. Obviously, I don't remember that happening like when it was happening. I'm just reading about it 20 odd years later. So
I like Shinedown. I saw them perform live. They're amazing.
I too. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
It's been a long time, but they're definitely like one of those household name bands by today's standards for sure.
Yep, absolutely. Same thing with Seether. I'm familiar with the band, not particularly the song. The song was okay. It just really wasn't like something that I just really wanted a
Seether song after, because I picked this one not long after we had I'm blanking on the title of the song, but the one that he does with the lady from Evanescence.
Broken Heart.
Like we had that, and it was like a little. I mean, it was some time after, but that was still somewhat recent. Whenever I started making this playlist, and so I was like, "Ooh, Seether." That's like the first time I had heard Seether in like a decade. Whenever we had Broken on there, so I like went looking, and they have several good songs that I definitely rocked to back in the day. This was just, I think, my favorite of them. But yeah, I agree. There's nothing really substantial to note of this song. It's just a decent rock song.
Well, it's a good song. I just like his voice because he always does like a like the way he sings. I just love it.
He kind of does now that you say it, don't he?
It's like I'm like, okay.
Well, the skin is red pale. Yeah.
So it's such a vibe. All in all, like I mean, I pleasantly enjoyed this, man. Like it was a good playlist. It was a nice breath of fresh air to not have to contribute for one. So that was nice for me, just to receive the playlist and just got a chance to like enjoy it and listen to it for what it was.
And it was nice for me to get back to my rock listening roots, so to speak, and really get, because like even so, like the whole this is after Thanksgiving, the whole way. Whenever I was driving to go visit family for Thanksgiving, I listened to this playlist once, and then I got caught up just listening to like adjacent songs. Like I started listening to some other Led Zeppelin, then I went and listened to some other Rage Against the Machine. I listened to some other Audioslave. It's like each of these artists I like are such integral parts of like my music history. But yeah, just this album, or this playlist rather, was just a joy every time I got to listen to it for me.
Exactly. And then hearing some of the certain bands, it brought back some memories for me as well. Again, I might not be familiar with the song, but I'm familiar with the band. And then it just, it brought back some good memories for sure. But also enlightened me to some new bands that I wasn't really familiar with. And now I'm becoming fans of these new bands. So
yes, sir.
So thank you. I appreciate it, man. This is awesome.
You're welcome. And if you want to keep learning about new music and getting new bands and new recommendations, you should definitely keep checking out our podcast in the years to come.
Absolutely. We also love hearing from you, and you can always enjoy more of our content by going to afterplaylist.com. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Share this episode, share this music playlist. It's totally free, and it helps support the show.
Quick programming announcement. We're taking a little break to recover from all the winter holiday madness, but we'll be back with brand new episodes.
Whoop, whoop. And while we're away, enjoy our previous episodes and music playlist by going to afterplaylist.com, and keep an eye out for show updates and any other little treats via our social media links, mostly our Instagram. So just keep an eye on Instagram. We're on Blue Sky. We're also on Threads.
Yes, sir. And as always, thanks for listening to us this year. And we cannot tell you how much we look forward to more episodes we'll be bringing your way next year in 2025.
Until next time, keep on listening.
How does the Black Giraffe keep getting in here, man?
Dude, I don't even know anymore. Just Happy New Year. Bye.
Bye.
Happy New Year. See you in 2025, suckers. Blake Graff out.
Black Giraffe made this.
Suppose I can stop recording now? Is it weird if I wanted to get to like an even 30 seconds before I hit stop?
Go for it.
And stop.